Hello and welcome to Spencer's Library. I'm Claudia and today I'm doing the Shakespeare Book Tag. This tag was started by Kara from Wilde Book Garden and she was also the one who tagged me, so thank you so much, Kara. I'm really excited to do this tag, although I have to admit that I've not actually read that much Shakespeare. I read the sonnets last year and it took me pretty much an entire year to get through them, and I've seen Much Ado About Nothing. I actually saw it in London with David Tennant and Catherine Tate, and I've seen some operas based on Shakespeare and I've seen some YouTube adaptations, but I'm afraid that's as far as my Shakespeare knowledge goes. I'm still really excited to be answering those questions because they are really fun, so let's get started. First question, Much Ado About Nothing. Your favourite bickering couple whom everyone knows really care about each other. Let's get the Harry Potter answer right out of the way, because otherwise I'll be tempted to answer every question with Harry Potter. So my answer for this is Ron and Hermione. They are just the most adorable couple. And yes, they are mismatched. And yes, Hermione... Oh, I don't want to say could do better because that sounds really horrible. But you know what I mean. Ron is not the most obvious pick for her, but I think they go well together. Question 2. Measure for Measure, a book whose plot or genre is really hard to explain to other people. I read one of those books very recently, and that's The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, because a plot summary of this would just be aging butler goes on road trip, which is definitely not what the book is about, but it's the framing for the actual story that happens very much inside the main character's head. So that's a really interesting genre-defying book in my opinion, and I really loved it. Question 3. A Midsummer Night's Dream. Your favourite book featuring fairies or elves. So this is when I realised that I don't actually read that much fantasy, and I'm not allowed to answer Harry Potter again. So I'm going to go with another YA/children's fantasy series that I read growing up, and that's Tintenherz, in English known as Inkheart, by Cornelia Funke. This is the first one in a series of 3, and it's a sort of story within a story kind of setting where the characters in the book end up escaping into a world of fairies and of magic and things like that. It's a really beautifully written book. I don't know what the English translation's like because I've only ever read it in the original German, but go check it out if you come across it. Question 4. Hamlet. An underutilized female character. Oh, where to start? Well, I'm going to start with this book here, The Princess Bride by William Goldman. And the character that I'm talking about is, of course, Buttercup. She's a really fun character. She's really well written, or she could have been really well written, but unfortunately the author just didn't seem to know what to do with her. So she's definitely just a sort of object, almost like a prize. Like, obviously this is a parody of fairy tales and of those sorts of hero stories, but since William Goldman manages to subvert so many other tropes, it's a shame that he left the damsel in distress as the damsel in distress with not much agency of her own. Question 5. The Sonnets. Choose your favourite poem. So I struggle with poetry, but there is one poem that I remember from my school days. It's an English poem, and it's called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. It's by Robert Frost. I'm going to link the poem down in the description box so you can check it out for yourself, because I'm not going to go and recite it. I had to learn this poem by heart, which my English teacher liked to make us do. In fact, it's the reason why I know more English poems by heart than German poems. This one is a really beautiful poem. I like the structure of it. I like the depth of it. So go have a look at it. It's quite short. Question 6. Richard III. A protagonist willing to do anything to get what they want. This one is for Wilde Book Garden because I know she's an Oscar Wilde fan. My pick is both Cecily and Gwendolen from The Importance of Being Earnest. These two ladies are just hilarious in their pursuit of what they want, which is randomly a husband called Earnest. And it's really funny to what lengths they go to make that happen. Question 7. Antony and Cleopatra. Your favourite trope or bookish buzzword or historical figure, etc., for which you still haven't found that perfect book. I still haven't found a perfect book that deals with the university experience. I have been a student for a very long time now, and I'd love to read a really good book that's set in a university and just deals with student life in a sort of realistic way. So I'm still looking for that book. If you have a good recommendation for a book that's set in a university and that deals with the student experience, then please let me know in the comments. I'm really looking for recommendations for that. Question 8. Titus Andronicus, a lesser-known work by a popular author, one which you want more people to read. I'm going to go for The Joker by Markus Zusak. His most famous book is undoubtedly The Book Thief, but I actually prefer The Joker. It's a completely different book to The Book Thief. It's a contemporary YA set in Australia. It's a very funny book, it's a very emotional book, and it's got a really weird twist ending that I really like. Question 9. A complex female villain or anti-hero? I'm trying really hard not to go Harry Potter again, but I'm going to go with Mrs. Coulter from His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. She is a beautifully crafted villain or anti-hero. I don't even know what she is. She is sly and clever and complex. She feels like a real person, but she also feels superhuman in a way. I really like her as a character, even though I would never want to meet her in real life. Question 10. The Taming of the Shrew. Choose 2 polarizing books, one you loved and one you hated. I'm going to go with 2 very different books for this. Let's start with the one I hated, and that is a classic that's beloved by many, and that is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Did not like it. Didn't like anyone in it. Didn't like the story. Didn't like the setting. Just no. And for the book I loved, I'm going to go for a YA dystopia, and that's the Uglies series by Scott Westerfeld. I know the series splits opinions. I read it when I was a teenager as the books were coming out. I really loved them. I was obsessed with them. I lended them to all of my friends so I could talk to them about it, and we started speaking like they do in the books and stuff, and we were really properly into it. I've not read these books for many years, and I'm slightly afraid of picking them up again in case that I see them now as a lot of other people see them, which is as sort of flat and predictable YA adventure stories. And then the last question. Give me your hands if we be friends. Tag some people. Cara already tagged a lot of people, so I don't really know who to tag. I'm going to do the lazy thing and say if you want to do it, consider yourself tagged, and please let me know in the comments if you end up filming this. It's a really fun tag and I'd love to see your responses. Thank you again to Cara for tagging me in the first place, and thank you all for watching. Bye.